We do the chanting straight away. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dudayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dudayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dudayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. These remain until cyclic existence ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi Soha. So now get yourself ready for some meditation practice. Nice comfortable position. Be aware, be mindful, be conscientious. Bring your mind initially inside your body. And let's release the tension from your body. All the way from the tips of your toes, up your legs, all the way to your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, and then back to the top of your head. Now you can scan your body again to release any leftover tension you may have. And now bring your mind to the tip of your nose initially. And the object of the meditation is the breath, or the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose all the way into your lungs and then back out your nose again. Breathing in and breathing out. Focusing on your breath. You can also add the extra technique of counting the breaths. One in breath and one out breath is one, and so on. But don't count past 10. And if you get distracted on the way to 10, then go back to 1 at that time. If thoughts arise or any mental activity arises while we're engaging in this meditation, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Don't try to force it away either or deny it, but simply and naturally let it go by replacing your mind back onto your breath, by applying this antidote. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, then wake it up a little bit by replacing your mind onto your breath more brightly. So let's practice like this in silence for a short while. So now we can feel pleased with ourselves, and let's fill ourselves with universal loving kindness. You can utilize visualization, where you fill your whole being with the white light, or white nectar, or just go with the feeling is fine too. This universal loving kindness, this mahametta, great loving kindness, which includes friendliness, non-violence, harmlessness, forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude, appreciation, respect, and so on. Fill yourself with all of these qualities. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, your family, your friends, and it fills them with the universal loving kindness too. May they be happy. May they be free from suffering. May they be peaceful. Now also include strangers, those people that you may be indifferent towards, whether you know them or not. Fill them with the universal loving kindness too. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and to be peaceful. Now also include those you may regard as enemies, those people that you find very difficult or don't condone their behavior and the like. Fill them with the universal loving kindness too. Let's give up our biased mind, replace it with a mind of equanimity, free of bias, attachment and aversion. May they too be happy, free from suffering, and may they be peaceful. Now let's radiate this loving kindness out further and further distance-wise too. Let's include all living beings around our immediate area. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born. May they all be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. All of the living beings that live in the waters, on the lands, fly through the air, whether they're born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. May they all be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. So let's extend this loving kindness now outwards more and more throughout our whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. To all living beings now, even the ones you can't see, maybe they're too small, maybe they don't abide around where you live. Maybe you've never seen them before, the depths of the oceans. So let's radiate this loving kindness out to other countries too. Initially, those you have an affinity towards, also those you're indifferent towards, and those that for whatever reason you have some negative feelings towards, until your loving kindness pervades throughout all of the countries, throughout the world, and also throughout all of the waterways, all of the oceans, lakes, and rivers, down to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. Now, beyond this planet alone, radiate this loving kindness out throughout the whole solar system. And all of the solar systems throughout the galaxy. All of the galaxies throughout the universe and beyond, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space, to all living beings. Now feel very pleased with yourself, and let's switch techniques to the Tong meditation. Today will be the last time that we'll practice this. Every now and then I'll bring it back, but the last time we'll practice this because we will finish the commentary on verse number 7 today, which includes this practice. And just so I'll drop it so we can contemplate, the ultimate bodhicitta as well, but also have a few more minutes for the Dharma talk. So now focus inside your mind. We'll do the 2 techniques of Tonglen, of giving, taking. So the first one, very similar to the loving kindness meditation. Visualize in front of you a loved one or your loved ones, friends and family. Also bring to mind, I should say before we do this, bring to mind the bodhicitta intention. Bring to mind the suffering of living beings and your wish to free them from this suffering, to help them be happy and lead them along the path to enlightenment. Give rise to the bodhicitta intention of attaining enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. So now your loved one's in front of you, and as you breathe in, inhale, you will take the black smoke from their heart centers, representing all of their suffering and the causes of suffering, and you will have it melt inside your heart center, melting away your ego and self-centeredness. So the black smoke coming in, as you exhale, then you give the white light from your heart center and it enters the heart centers of all of them, giving your happiness, your goodness, all of your attainments on the spiritual path, giving them happiness, freeing yourself from attachment. So just for a really short while, we'll do this. And now increase this to include those you're indifferent towards, strangers. Also those you may regard as enemies. Just a note here that obviously we're going to do this very quickly today. When you engage in this practice, you should take longer. Give yourself the time. And now also include all living beings around your immediate area. All of the people, the animals, and so on. Take the black smoke, give the white light. And throughout your whole state, all of the living beings throughout your whole state, give them all of your happiness and free them from their sufferings. Throughout your whole country, in the world, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe, and throughout infinite space. So now you're visualizing infinite living beings, all sentient beings in front of you. Don't worry about sort of counting. There's one, there's two, there's three, etc. Okay, just imagine all sentient beings right in front of you. As you breathe in, you take the suffering from them. As you breathe out, you give all goodness to them. And now you can switch the technique slightly. So when you breathe in now, this is all sentient beings, okay? When you're breathing in, you take their suffering, just as we've been doing with the black smoke, into your heart center, melting away your ego, and giving the white light as you breathe out. I made a slight error before. I was actually going to say we should practice like before for a short while, but we did the inhaling and the exhaling anyway, and that's fine. I will remind you during the talk about the other technique. Okay, so now let's do the dedication prayer. So cease the visualization, obviously. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So continuing the commentary on the 8 verses of thought transformation now. Finishing up verse number 7, and we will start verse number 8 today as well. Okay, so let me have a look at my notes. I finished up last week by saying this, okay? I'll reiterate. Normally, so generally, as human beings, we are totally unaware of the well-being of others and our own self-centeredness. We may be aware of it when we think about it, but generally in our lives, I'm not saying us now, maybe we've trained ourselves quite well already, but generally human beings don't normally think, oh, I'm self-centered, you know, during all of the activities that get involved. To generally don't think, oh, I want the others to be well. I want to be caring for their well-being. Generally, we don't think like that moment to moment. We're only sort of caring about our own well-being most of the time. I think we can all agree with that. Even actually when we're practicing, we're imperfect still, right? So we are practicing the Dharma, increasing the compassion, increasing the wisdom, or increasing the conditions we need to realize the wisdom. We are improving because we're practicing. And that's really good. But still, there is the care for ourselves, for our own well-being, isn't it? The more we care for others, the more we benefit ourselves. It's interesting. Often we're even willing to, unfortunately, exploit others arrogantly to realize our own well-being. Think about the world of business, for instance. People exploit each other to the detriment of their future, actually, law of karma. They will experience the negative effects of these actions, but they don't realize that and think they are getting something, working hard, whatever it may be, but others miss out. Think about a house sale or a sale of a house. The more money that the seller gets, the less money that the buyer can use in the future for something else. So if they get an extra $100,000 for something, actually, this is like exploiting others. Now, of course, you can say, yeah, but this is part of life. Yeah, of course it is. This is samsara. This is part of life. But let's have good intentions behind our actions. Even if we engage with this type of type of thing, okay? But if we sincerely think about people or groups of people, or even all sentient beings who are suffering they have no protection or refuge, we can give rise to care and compassion. So if we bring the suffering, the difficulties others experience to our mind, at that time, we are developing this care, this compassion. And we can think they don't have the refuge. Maybe us Buddhist practitioners, we have what we call the greatest refuge, isn't it? In the teacher, the teaching, spiritual community, triple gem. Yeah, the greatest refuge. But still, we ourselves are not perfect yet. So we need to continue with that, taking refuge. But at the same time, wish others the same. And what I mean by that, by writing that they have no protection or refuge, means that most living beings, most human beings don't think about the law of karma. And so they're not protecting themselves from developing the negative karma. They're not protecting themselves by doing the right thing. You could say taking refuge in good, in virtue. So we should help them. We should think about that and say, I want to help those beings. Even if we're incapable of doing it right now, we want to develop this aspiration, okay? We can focus on, now we're talking about the meditation practice here as well, okay? So I want to make some points, some notes about that, because I really want you to practice this Tonglen giving-taking meditation every day. Like I said before, we release tension in the body. This also helps the mind to become focused. Then we develop our concentration by focusing on the breath as much as possible, one-pointedly, increasing our concentration. Then we do loving kindness meditation, wanting beings to be happy and so on and so forth. Then to develop compassion, practice the Tonglen method. Okay, we won't do it like I said, in the classes, in the coming classes for a while. Every now and then I may bring it back because I want to have a little bit more time to talk, but also we can do some contemplation meditations in the coming weeks as well on emptiness, for instance. Okay. So we can focus in the meditation practice. We can focus on specific individuals we care about, then on people we have indifference towards, and even those we don't like, just as we did before. And realize they are all suffering. So think about that. Yes, our loved ones, yeah, we want them to be free from suffering. Of course, I can say jokingly again, unless we're arguing with them, or they've done something untowards towards you or something, Anyway, but generally, we want them to be happy. Enemies, there's nasty people out there. Generally, we don't want them to be happy. Maybe we just don't think about it. And those beings we're indifferent towards, we don't think about that either. Okay, so now we are thinking about it as equally, at them as equally, okay, with the mind of equanimity. They are all suffering, and we are all interrelated, as I say often. Give rise to more and more compassion. That's what this will do. We want to give rise to more and more compassion. We can see ourselves as a neutral third person in this meditation, for instance, or in our everyday practice, generating this bodhicitta. So take away this idea that I'm me, they are them, my friends, my family, my enemies, my strangers. Take away that idea and think of yourself maybe as a third person, as a neutral person, impartial observer, kind of. What is more important, our own well-being or others' well-being? If you consider the well-being of all sentient beings, what is more important, the well-being of all sentient beings or just your well-being? Obviously, all sentient beings. So if we think of ourselves as an observer to this, we can see that is the way it is. But generally, we live thinking that our well-being is more important. Okay. Then, of course, we have Seeing yourself as a neutral person makes it easier to see the limitations of self-centeredness, isn't it? By contemplating self-centeredness and the limitations. It's very myopic, very short-sighted. You know, we're cutting ourselves off from developing the wisdom and the compassion. And to see how much fairer and more rational it is to concern yourself with the welfare of other sentient beings, especially more so all sentient beings, you know? So I gave the instruction on the giving, taking again. I was going to do it, like I said, focusing on your loved ones for a while, not in taking this, for a while giving the white light, then for a while taking the black smoke, but I didn't do that. But you can practice like that too, okay? You can go back to the first class in February and, 6-7 months ago now, and then you can have a look at that and on the YouTube channel, it's the easiest probably. And then you can practice that method as well, excuse me. So what have I put here? So the first thing you do is you focus on the suffering, mental and physical sufferings of others, and wish to alleviate their suffering and to help them be happy. You have this wish, you have this, this aspiration. We are practicing thought transformation. And while we do this, we relinquish our attachment as well. We need to share or give away our positive qualities, our meritorious actions, positive potential, all spiritual insight that you may have. Increase care, excuse me. Increase care and compassion and loving kindness. Decrease self-centeredness and attachment. Increase the altruistic intention, the compassionate altruistic intention, and wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. Excuse me. All of a sudden, I got this hay fever thing going on. It is springtime after all, and the weather's been very windy too. It's the first time for the day, actually. Do you wish me to be free from my suffering right now? Thank you. And ditto, vice versa. So now that's verse number 7, basically. So in short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings, my mothers. And in secret, I will take upon myself all of their harmful actions and sufferings. Verse number 8. How's it go here? Just without these practices being stained or defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued mind. Okay, so the first, I mentioned before that verse number 8 relates specifically to the ultimate bodhicitta, the supreme wisdom. But it's really the second half of it, the last 2 lines of it, that relate to this. Because the first 2 lines relate to our practice of compassion, based on the wisdom, of course, whatever wisdom we have. So you could say this verse, yes, it is predominantly related to the ultimate bodhicitta, or the wisdom aspect, but the first part is very much to do with your practice being free, not defiled by our worldly concerns, not having bad intentions, and so on, so forth. So the ultimate bodhicitta, the last 2 lines. So the last 2 lines, if I can just read them here without having to think. The last 2 lines, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. The first lines say, without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns. Okay, so we'll talk about that obviously first. So wisdom and compassion. The first part is developing the wisdom and increasing our compassion. practicing the compassion, to develop more and more the conditions that we need to realize the supreme wisdom. Okay? The first two lines are very critical for a genuine practitioner. The 8 worldly concerns, or 8 worldly winds, I like to call them, as I've mentioned previously, because they metaphorically blow us off our Dharma paths. Whenever we're concerned with these things, we're not practicing the best we can. Okay? And every moment in samsaric existence, we tend to be thinking of these things. Okay? So they can also be known as the 4 pairs because they come in pairs. They are attitudes that tend to dominate our lives generally. Okay, I think you will agree with this. So I'll give a little bit really quick commentary now because we just have 2.5 minutes left, and then pick it up here next week to continue the commentary on verse number 8. So we have gain and loss, we have pleasure and pain, we have praise and blame, and fame and shame. That's the way I've remembered it. You can use other words too. I remembered it's sort of like a poetry many, many years ago. Gain and loss, pleasure and pain, praise and blame, fame and shame. Very simple. In a sense, it's like remembering it as poetry and then computing it to your mind. So gain basically is being joyful when you acquire wealth. Loss, feeling dispirited when you become poor. Pleasure, feeling happy when you experience success and experience pleasure, obviously. Pain, being depressed when you experience failure, you experience pain. Praise, becoming elated when you're praised. Blame, becoming depressed when you're insulted or belittled. Fame, being pleased when you have fame. And shame, lack of fame, is feeling down when you lack recognition. This is very basic, okay? You can reverse them as well. Like, for instance, you don't want to gain something negative. You want something positive. This is in every aspect of our lives. The examples I just gave you then are just the very obvious ones. So I know that we're under a minute, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Practice well, okay? Study just enough, so then contemplate on what it is you've studied, and then put it into practice, or absorb your mind with it in meditation and put it into practice in your everyday life. All right? Always practice these 3 wisdoms: hearing the Dharma or studying the Dharma, contemplating the Dharma, practicing the Dharma. I rejoice in your goodness as always. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya.